I come up with podcast topics that are engaging, that get people to listen, that get people to download and click and listen to me? Well, I think I have an answer for you. You're listening to the Vic Podcasters podcast, your bite-sized slice of podcasting know-how. We're here to connect Victorian podcasters. Whether you're just starting, a seasoned pro, or stuck in the one day I will phase, stop dreaming and dive in. Join our email list or hop onto our Facebook and LinkedIn groups for updates, resources, and a supportive community. Because podcasting is better when we do it together. Vic Podcasters is proudly produced on Wadawurrung land. Welcome to this 3-part series on how to come up with engaging podcast topics or ideas that will get people to actually click. First episode in this 3-part mini-series, let's focus on how to think like a listener. What would make you click? If you had no context of who you are, didn't know your face, didn't know your name, anything like that, what would make you click? And if not, why would someone else? Your episode titles are not just for SEO, they are mini promises that you're making to your listener. Sometimes you can make them a bit spicy and specific to get people to make that click. You are allowed to be funny and engaging, even though the topic may not be that serious. It's something that people can both look for and stumble upon when they find your podcast. A good question I have for you and people who are stuck in this current mindset when it comes to engaging with your podcast is ask yourself, what problem are you solving? Some questions that you can ask yourself is, I don't know what mic to buy. That is a great episode if you are someone who is in podcasting or audio work. How do I get more listeners is always popular. And people who want their questions answered, not necessarily want a tech talk, but they want to be able to find answers to their questions. A good little exercise that I find myself doing on a regular basis is these kind of prompts. What would you rant about if you went to a dinner party? What would something that not necessarily set you off in a negative or intangible or an argumentative way, but more, what is something that people find interesting or engaging? It makes their eyebrows perk up and their mouths go into a little O shape and they go, ooh, that's interesting, that's engaging, and that's something that you would do a podcast episode about. No matter what your topic is, if it's something that people who are outside of your sphere of influence or people who are not necessarily your friends and family who have probably already heard all the things that you talk about, then what is something that can make people go, ooh, get that response when people click your podcast topic or when people click the title of your episode. Just pausing your podcasting experience to let you know that I run a business called The Video Confidence Coach, which emboldens women and non-binary superstars with killer video marketing strategies, empowering them to show up, stand out, and smash their goals. If this sounds like you, reach out to me in the show notes below. When it comes to coming up with your episodes titles, run the philosophy that you should think about the content of your episode before your title. Your title can always come later. To be honest, it's one of the last steps that I put together things with. I honestly think about the question that I'm answering before I worry even about the title of the episode and think about SEO and all that lovely stuff. So for you, what is something that can get people's interest and engagement? And then you can go from there. Another question you can ask yourself is, what do you always explain to clients if you're doing a podcast as part of a business or a personal brand? Or what do you find yourself explaining to friends? What is something that you repeat over and over again that you could answer in a longer form podcast section that gets people clicking because they want the answers to that question? Are you finding a repetitive system here? I'm glad you are, because that is what this episode's about. And another question I have is, what mistake did you make when your listener was you? So a lot of people, when I work in the business sector, for example, in the work that I do, a lot of people are, say, 5 years ahead of where their clients are. So for them, that's where they are. So for you, what mistake did you make that people want the answer to? And how did you figure out a way around that? And that is probably a good question to answer. So as this is part 1 of this 3-part series, make sure you check out the next 2 episodes of this series to learn how to better come up with engaging podcast topics and questions. Thing I want you to do after this episode is list 5 questions that you get asked all the time. Think of things that people maybe even perk up they go, ooh, whenever you start talking about something, maybe something ridiculous about your particular topic, niche, or industry, and that will get them going. And maybe you can even spend some time, 10 or 15 minutes, rewriting a couple of episodes' title, maybe your most recent ones, to make them more clickable and engaging, because if you're not going to click them, no one else is going to do the same. And ask yourself, would I click this? And if not, make sure you rework it. Make sure to check out the rest of the series, the next 2 episodes after this. And if you're going back into the archive, check out episode 7, How Do I Get People to Listen to My Podcast? As you can imagine, we went on a really brief tangent then in episode 7, but I wanted to make sure that I answer people's questions in a much more breathtaking mini-series here. That's it for this week's episode. Tune in next week for more tips, updates, and the occasional pun. Good ideas buzzing? Excellent. Head to the show notes in this episode for details that you'll need to dive deeper into Victoria's podcasting community. Vic Podcasters would like to acknowledge and pay our respects to the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians on the land on which we work, live, and play. We pay our respects to our elders past and present. We stand with the traditional custodians in these lands in working towards a more equal future. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. And hey, don't forget, podcasting is better with mates.